Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Payson. Welcome back to the show for all the subscribers. If you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe to the show so that you can see more great interviews like the one we've got coming up right now. And back on the show, one of the more fun, exciting, up-and-coming, now pro MMA fighters from the Pittsburgh area, training out of Stout, Pittsburgh, is the one, the only, Brittany Sunshine Bickhart. Brittany.
Wow, thank you.
You are. Hey, that's what I'm here for. Great having you back on the show. You were nice enough to come on before one, maybe a couple of your amateur MMA fights. Your last MMA fight was in January. At this point, almost a year ago. You have a 4-1 record. Your only MMA loss came in your debut when you were 0-0. What has your amateur career been like overall? What are some takeaways? What are some highs and lows or frustrations? I know you've been waiting now almost a year to make your pro debut, and that's now under a month away, so we'll get to that. But just summarize what you've learned and what it's been like training at Stout during your amateur portion now that you're going pro.
Yeah, I would just say that my progression throughout looking at my debut with CFFC and then like where I'm at now is just like I'm completely different. And I started out with a loss. So that was like, I would say the lowest point of my amateur career. It was like my first taste of my amateur MMA career. And that loss hurt me really, really bad. So that loss honestly drove me in each and every fight that I took next, because I knew how bad it felt to lose. And I was like, I don't want to feel this again. This sucks. So I think I've really carried that with each fight. And, obviously being at Stout, being around great people, great coaches, I was able to just, build and build and build. And I'm very happy that, I started out 0-1. That was horrible, honestly. But I'm happy that, it's just been on the up ever since then.
Absolutely. You already mentioned your first fight being the low because you had a loss. Your last fight was against a previously undefeated Sarah Flowers. You were 3-1 going into that fight. She was 4-0 for the Ohio Combat League. You got a win, and that's kind of how your amateur career is ending. So compare that, the first fight of your amateur career, to your last. What was it like to take on, obviously, a very high-rated opponent who was 4-0, undefeated? There you are going into it. With that loss being, in the rearview mirror at that point, what was that like for you?
Just kind of like knowing. So I really took that when I felt what it was like to lose. It kind of stays with you until you get to fight again and maybe get a win under your belt. You kind of feel that loss. It's more than just that night. It kind of creeps in for months after the fight until you get to fight again. And I literally remember for the Sarah Flowers fight, just the work I put into it, because driving off the starting out with a loss and then won a couple, but I really respected her as a fighter. And she's scary if you look at her, she's no joke. So I kind of just knew I had to go in and just put my head down and trust what I can do and leave it all out there is what I would say. Because my debut, I didn't leave it all out there. I didn't do everything I could, and I knew that. So for my last fight, I was like, I'm just leaving this all out here. I'm just going to put my head down and go. And that in the second round, I was stuck in a triangle choke for quite some time. And I in my head was don't tap. You're going to hate yourself for months, because I knew what it felt like to lose. So maybe had I not gone through that in my debut and that heartache, who knows where I'd be. So I'm honestly kind of thankful for how everything started.
And now you have a 4-fight MMA streak of win coming in your pro debut. Without getting into a lot of details, because I'm sure the last almost 11, 12 months has not been that fun. But what's it been like since January 7th? You got that big win. I know you wanted to turn pro. You're finally turning pro. Can't wait to talk about it. But what has the last 10 or 11 months been like to you? And where do you think your talent level and abilities have gone in this 10, 11-month layoff while you've been training for your pro debut?
Yeah. So in the past 10 and 11 months, I think we did an interview right after that win, and I was like, oh, I quit my job and here I am.
Yeah.
Remember?
Right,
So,
right. Now I am. It's coming back. Thank you. Yeah, because you came off that big win and we were like, you're going pro. Woo!
yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! And then, it just it stayed like this. I was
Yeah.
just training, so my life has kind of done like this 180 where but I'm super blessed to be where I'm at. Like I do what I love every day. So, that part is really good. What I would say is the past like 10 and 11 months have taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot of, what the professional life is like. You kind of have to just, this is your job. You need to stay ready all the time. You can't just always pick and choose when you want to fight. It's not always going to work out that way. And, kind of like in the beginning, I was kind of like, woe is me about it. And it was kind of like, oh man, I wish I could get a fight. We tried to fight in July. And then, as you know, a couple things fell through. And I was like, after LFA fell through, I was like, well, I'm just going to stay ready they could call me next week and I'll be ready. And that has just like molded me into, now that I have this fight camp, I'm like, nothing's really changed about my life. I've just been on this grind and for the past 10, 11 months, honestly, I've kept my head down and I've just been doing what I do every day with my coaches and my teammates. And I can honestly say that like I'm giving it everything I have right now. And yeah, seriously, the past 10, 11 months have been great because I've just been training and really working on myself.
And I'm sure that'll really show when you're in the cage, December 16th at Brawl in the Burgh 19. Not only is it your pro debut, which is you only do one of those, it'll be your first time fighting for 247. I know there was some attempts while you were still an amateur. The legendary matchmaker Jim Mooney has told me several times behind the scenes with the amateur side of things that he was trying to get you matched. You're, a hard person to match. I'm sure you've heard that many times. It's incredible now that you'll be debuting. Originally, the debut was going to be with LFA. Sucks that fell through, but it's great because now you're under a month away from your pro debut for 247. You're taking on Danielle Wynn, who has a ton of pro fights. I think this is her 7th pro fight, 6th or 7th pro fight going up against you. And so what's it like to take on somebody that's been pro, I would say obviously a lot longer, and what makes you confident going in against Danielle for your debut?
I love that she has a lot of experience. I do think that the fight can go a little, I don't know, when both people have a lot of experience, it kind of just like goes a little, like it just kind of flows a little better together because we both are, have experience being in there. I mean, and it's like kind of dope that I'm like, oh, it's my first one. It's just her 7th one.
Right.
Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of cool,
Oh.
I really, really respect her. I'm super, super thankful for her because she's giving me this opportunity to make my debut when I was, striking out a lot with opponents. So she's given me hope. She's given me like this huge blessing to be able to go out and fight in my hometown. So I have no doubt that she's a dog and she's about it. This is her 7th fight and she's, you know, I know she's done bare knuckle fights too. And she's had some boxing fights. So that makes me more excited that she's experienced in this.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. You mentioned being grateful that you get to make your debut in front of your home crowd. We originally met and did an interview a while ago while you were living on the east side of Pennsylvania. You've been in Pittsburgh, sort of adopted hometown Pittsburgh now for many years. And so what's it like to be able to make that debut in Pittsburgh, stout Pittsburgh, I mean, you know this because I've seen you at a lot of 247 fights, but anywhere stout goes, or the Mat Factory or the Academy, one of the local gyms, the crowd goes nuts. What are you expecting from the crowd reaction? What's it like to be able to make your debut in front of a hometown crowd for 247? Brawl in the Burgh 19.
Well, I anticipate selling it out. It's gonna be very loud there. It's gonna be very it's just gonna be a good vibe. I'm super excited. I've never fought at home. I've never fought in Pittsburgh in general. So this would be my first time pro debut. Like I'm very, very excited for it. A lot of people are going to be drinking White Claw. A lot of people are going to be partying, celebrating, screaming. We have, you know, Carly from the Mat Factory's on there, other Mat Factory people. So we'll have the Mat Factory crowd there as well with the Stout crowd. And I'm planning on bringing a lot of people with me for this.
And you did mention that it could be a sellout. I think 247 is planning on it being a sellout. They mentioned on Facebook. You're a big part of that, but also there's a lot of excitement behind, you know, I think there's 6 or 7 fights announced so far. And just the 6 or 7 that they announced, you're, of course, a big part of that, Justin, the General Patton. And you already mentioned Carly Joe Thomas. There's already enough quality fights on that card at just 6 or 7 fights announced to sell out the building. There really is. It'll be super exciting. So this is a great time to remind people that they need to buy tickets from you now, or from Stout or one of the gyms, I'm sure, are selling them, but from you directly. And if this video reaches people that aren't from the area, which I think you have fans outside of the area, then they need to remember to get the pay-per-view and give you credit while they're buying the pay-per-view, either from 247fighting.com or from the 247 Live downloaded app, which is probably the best idea to go about it. Coming into your pro debut, what do you want to show, whether that's prove to yourself, put on for the crowd, or kind of like what do you want to show in there on the 16th?
I would like to show, and I plan on showing the skill level that I have, you know, been able to work towards in this past year. And just, you know, showing a different volume of a fighter. You know, I was an amateur last time everybody was able to see me fight. And there was, you know, a different rule set than a pro rule set. So I've been embracing the pro rule set in my training, and yeah, I just and an exciting fight too. I want to have a very exciting fight. Some of the guys at Stout talk about, you know, this is like it's a show. So like you could play it safe and win that way, or like you can really put on a show and like leave it out there for, you know, what people want to see. And I want people to want to come see me again. So I definitely want to put on a show and just make it exciting.
Well, that's all the more reason for people to buy tickets now from you, because you are going to put on a show. You're one of, I think, already announced 3 female fights on the card, which is a big deal. Jim Mooney has told me many times he loves getting female fights, but it's hard. It's hard to get matchups. That's why you were so grateful to your opponent coming into this, because you got to have 2 people that are willing to make the commitment, that are willing to come through all the hurdles to get to the cage. So it's great to see Carly Joe, Faith Nichols. That's kind of the hometown side, but also your opponent. I've already interviewed Elena Dutel, and I think I've got one more trying to get. Oh, that would be Kara Hood. Trying to get all kind of, you know, publicity about all the fights, but particularly the female fights. It's a big deal. There was a time, obviously, a while ago where Dana White said there would never be female fighters in the UFC, and they have become some of the biggest draws. So there's really a path to a career. Like you said, you're a professional fighter. This is what you do. Coming into your pro debut, who are some of the sponsors? All too often, we kind of forget to give credit. You don't, of course, because you're the fighter. But what are some of your sponsors that have made this last X number of months possible? And let's get to kind of the thank yous that you have, because making a pro debut takes a lot of support. So supporters and sponsors.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you to the Fat Butcher. They're a great sponsor of mine, and also go check them out because they have very good. They got the meats there, so and they help out with Stout with a lot of our events. So thank you to them. The Triangle Foundry. One of my good friends, Gabe Goldman, him and his wife own that place. So if you want to go out and check out some yoga and get your body right, go check them out. Dark Stark Gear. They're also a really good, you know, sponsor of Stout. Have always been with us, so I appreciate them and everything they do. Junker Apartments. So
We seem to have lost the volume on you, which double check, see if something's going on your end, Sunshine, with the volume. you had just mentioned Junker. Can you hear me? You just mentioned Junker Apartments and it cut out. Still don't have any volume. Hate it when there's technical difficulties in the middle of an interview. There we go.
Wait, you got it?
I got it. Start with,
okay.
Yep, take it from Junker. Don't touch anything. Take it from Junker's apartment.
Okay, Junker Apartments and some other ones that are in the works. So shout out to them. I really appreciate them. They're really helping me out a lot. And yeah, so just excited.
I'm very excited for you for sure. You've talked about wanting to put on a show. Use the rule set of the pro rule sets. That'll be knees to the face, elbows, head kicks. There's so much that you couldn't have shown, and there's other things on the ground even that you couldn't have done, like elbows to ground opponent, all types of things. What about the 3 5-minute rounds? I know you've been training like a pro. You are a pro for over a year now, or just about a year. How has the adjustment been on your body to really push the rounds, or were you already training at that level even as an amateur? The 3 5-minute rounds, people might not think it, but training for a 15-minute fight with all of the volume and the intensity of MMA fight is a lot. So how's that been going for you?
Yeah, it's definitely like different, you know. They're longer, so it's a lot more to think about. I think it will show like fight IQ where you need to put your pressure, where you need to put those times that you're, you know, blitzing and going for takedowns, and where you can get your breaks. So it's kind of, you know, made me think a lot about that. And it's definitely going to, I think, feel different. But when I will say, when I was fighting in 2-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds, sometimes I would feel that they were like a flash, like it just like went by and you wanted more time. So this might be, you know, this might give you the ability to, and who knows, because I've never done it yet, but might give you the ability to maybe read your opponent more, set up things more, not feel so rushed because it's only 2 minutes and you got to highlight really quick or else you're going to lose the round. So, yeah, I think honestly, 5-minute rounds really just will, you know, of course, most fighters are in shape, but it will kind of display your fight IQ.
Makes perfect sense. I think that's a great mindset coming into it. I can't wait. We're under a month away from December 16th, Brawl in the Burgh, 19 for 247 Fighting Championships. It's always great having you on the show. I know it's been a while because the last time we talked was right after your last big amateur win, and now your pro fight is just a month away. So I really appreciate you coming back on the show. It's always great to chat with you. So thanks for taking time out. You've been listening to Luke Basin from MMA Fancast with the one, the only Sunshine Brittany Bickhart. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.